wanted to introduce this panel discussion with some personal story. So in 2008, I took an internship in a company in Novi Sad. The internship took 2 months, and during that internship, I had an amazing mentor. I could learn a lot. He was explaining things in so simple way, so that I felt like everybody would understood him, you know. So I really wished to work with somebody like him. After in 2009, 13 January, I remember, not sure was it Friday. I started to work for that same company. So this was my first official job. And when I jumped in as the youngest member of the team, in the team, and this was a maintenance team, they had a lot of projects, and basically I felt like, you know, I need to give my best. And suddenly, just, you know, I started getting tasks, bugs, features, you know, and I was lost in I felt lost in space. And actually, when I came at my first day of work, the good thing was that first person I saw in that office where I supposed to sit was my mentor from the internship. So it was a little bit easier for me. But you know, when just they started blowing me with the tasks and sending all this, so I really felt lost. And basically, after let's say 2 weeks, I wrote. I actually did a bug fixing for my first big bug, let's say, and I felt very good, you know. So it was. I was very proud of my code. I wrote it in my way, of course, but I wanted somebody to review it. And I remember that he came and he said to me, and he looked at the code and he told me. Actually, he asked me a couple of questions. And probably all the questions that you hear will be familiar to you. He asked me, why do you have so many lines of code in that method? He asked me, are your variables understandable to everybody or only you? Can you just make this method smaller, or can you create a couple of smaller methods in order to make code cleaner and simpler? And things like that. So why do you go so many times to the database? You're fetching data every time, you know, so it will just increase, it will create a performance issue. And things like that. So I believe everybody had the same problem. So then he took the keyboard, you know, and he wrote one piece of code, you know, that was the only one time when he wrote some code for me. So, and I will always remember the question he asked me. Like he smiled and he says, like, what do you think about this code? And it was 3 times less lines than my code. Of course, it was well organized. The name of the methods were amazing. You know, so simple, like a story. You know, you're reading a story. And to be honest, I felt this was a slap in my face, definitely, and I felt very stupid, to be honest. And even I thought that I really can do amazing things, you know, but that definitely, you know, did a big impact, you know, on my personal self-confidence. So after that, definitely I changed my attitude. I changed my approach. I definitely looked at the problems in a different way. During the next few months, I learned, you know, from everybody from the office. I talked to him a lot, and I learned really a lot from him. He actually showed me how to talk to the clients, how to approach the problems, how to behave, how to behave in some specific situations, how to say no to the clients because you know, when you start working somewhere, you just think that customer is always right, and you need always to say yes, it will be done. And basically, this really changed my whole approach, and I just felt much better than when I started. But suddenly, after 9 months, he told me that he's leaving the company. I felt in that moment that I still have, you know, more to learn. And I felt like, you know, after 9 months, everybody would say baby was born, but I felt like baby has been left. So I was thinking like, oops, so what now? And definitely I changed my approach. I actually started to learning. I took a lot of code from the internet. I watched the best practices. I read a lot of books and things like that. And I really developed myself, and every day I felt better, you know. So, and very soon I started to be proud of my code, and I liked my code. And this is definitely something that still motivates me and still gives me how to say a wish and willingness to go further and to learn more. And I'm always eager to learn. And definitely I very often I feel like I hate that day has only 24 hours, but you know. So we never stop learning, you know. We should never say, okay, now we achieved something and that's it. So, as you all know, and I believe as you all behave. So, with this personal story, I wanted to give some introduction, because we are talking about how to be great developer. But in my opinion, it's very important to be to have, when you start your career, it's very important to have somebody like I did. And I always think where I would be now if I just went to another company or to another team. And I don't know, I just feel that I was lucky. So yes, I have great speakers today with me. I have a great panelist with a lot of experience. They will answer on as many questions as we ask them, and feel free to ask them. So yes, we use Slido, so just feel free to ask them. Okay, so you met Sandro already. Sandro is here with us again in this panel discussion. So once again, Sandro, welcome. Okay, you already heard about Sandro. Second panelist is coming from Novi Sad. His name is Nenad Božić. He's mostly doing the Java development. He's a craftsman, and he is very interested and passionate about big data and all other tools related to that. He also co-founded a company called SmartCat last year. So, Nenad, welcome on board. We have one more guest, if I can say guest, but he's not from Novi Sad. He's from Serbia, but he's not working in Serbia. His name is Filip Živković. He's coming originally from Belgrade, right? He finished the EFT faculty in Belgrade. He worked for many companies like NVIDIA, like Nordeus. And he also was assistant in Petnica Science Center, and since March last year, he works at Google in California. Welcome. Last but not least, I don't see him. You're there. Okay, my dear colleague, Mladen. Mladen is very passionate about his job. He always tries to find, and the beer as well, he always tries to find he's not interested about any specific technology, but he rather tries to get knowledge from other different fields and try to adapt it and apply to certain problems. So he wants to say for himself that he's more problem solver than developer. Welcome, Mladen. Okay, as Sandro already mentioned his book and Maya as well, I started reading it. It's amazing, and I believe that this story sounds familiar to you because I found myself, reading the same words because he had the similar experience at the start of his career. So I just started reading a book. It sounds very amazing, and I recommend at least from the start. I hope I will not regret. Okay. So we will start with the questions. So after this introduction, Sandro, I believe that it's, as I said, it's very, very, very important to have somebody which will mentor you, which will show you how, because this IT world is amazing and it's very big, and definitely we need somebody to show us some way inside, So what do you think about? We talk here about great developers, but let's start with the role junior developer, medior developer, senior developer. This is something that we hear all the time, and basically how you see this structure. And yes, it works.
So I think that this whole thing about junior, mid-level developer or senior developer is a very simplistic way to address a person. So, for example, in my company, we have loads of craftsmen in there. I am very senior in certain things, and I'm a completely newbie in other things. So I think that like saying you are a junior or a senior is a very simplistic way of qualifying someone. I think that mainly if you are talking about technologies, but you can say like junior and develop. The way that we qualify seniors and juniors is more about how you deal with clients. So for example, would you be prepared to go to a project on your own and take ownership? So are you prepared to speak to developers and sit down and write code with them, and at the same time go to speak to senior management? I think that this type of seniority, you need time in the industry. But just say, oh, you are a junior developer or a senior developer because you know Java or you don't, or PHP or Ruby or whatever, is a simplistic way. So I think that all of us, including myself, we are seniors in a few things, and we are completely newbies in many other things. So it's a very simplistic way.
Yes, very good question. I believe in the same way. Philip, you're coming from Google. You're there for, let's say, 1 year, something more. So how in Google this seniority is defined, and how you define the senior developer, and does Google have any seniority structure, how to say, or do you actually have those kind of roles?
Well, when we go to a bar, someone has to pick up the tab, and whoever does that is a senior. In all seriousness, I completely agree with Sandro, and most of the world works that way. You are junior in one thing, and you are senior in the other. And when I think of my seniors, I think of my mentors. I think of when I need guidance in this particular area, who do I go to? And those might be 10 different persons, and in some other situation, in some other area, they might come to me in guidance, because you have one person who has vast industry experience, but it's really new to the company, or vast company experience, but they just started on this particular team, and they do not have domain expertise that someone else might have who is straight out of college but has been on team longer. So in that sense, there is no real seniority except for picking up a tab at the bar.
Okay. I was in Germany, and they have like whoever sits on the end of the table, actually on the top of the table, he actually buys a drink, so pays a drink. So I would say it's similar. Okay, great. So we are talking about great developers. We must say what. We must mention senior developers, and we just started with that let's say definition, and I wanted to hear your opinion. Of course, we will move further with other questions, but Nenad, in your opinion, what defines the senior?
Yeah, I'm probably repeating myself that I agree with them that you are senior in one thing and you are not in the other. But if I have to pin a few things, I would say it's really hard to follow technology and certain frameworks. But for me, senior is thinking, seeing wider picture and thinking in concepts and algorithms, not in tools and certain languages or whatever. As the other thing, maybe speaking, doing internet presence, bringing back something to community, speaking on conferences, helping, taking apprentice and seeing him grow, because you will grow also you need to speak something and teach someone that both of you are growing. So I would say that. And as the last thing, really understanding business. I like what Sandro said in his presentation, that whole his concept is probably a crap if you have a web form and easy stuff. So you don't need to spend too much time thinking about architecture. Choose what is best for your client and add a value. I think that's those three things.
Yes. Yes, you can.
Just a quick one. So I think that also a sign of seniority is when you understand where you make compromises. So a junior will learn one tool or one way of doing things, and you try to apply that thing everywhere, all the time. And I think that with seniority, you learn when to apply certain things and when you don't apply, when you make a compromise, when you don't make a compromise. So I think
in other words, to be pragmatic in specific situations.
Pragmatism is very key.
Yeah.
I think it's even a matter of growing up as a developer. First, you are lost in space and doing what everybody says. Then you read few books and think that only things from books should be applied. And then you come to a point that you really understand the business and make a compromise. But you speak loud that something is compromised. That's the thing that senior developers will do, in my opinion.
Yes. We all want, and our wish is to be a great developer, you know. But how to make a balance? So Mladen, how to make that balance? Why actually we want to be great developers? So how to make the balance and how to learn to be pragmatic?
Yeah, I would just like to add one thing to the previous question, if you don't mind.
Yeah, of course.
I read somewhere one funny thing regarding the junior, medior, senior things. It mentioned something like, you're a junior developer when you learn how to solve problems, and all of a sudden you're excited, like, I can do it, After sometimes, you like learn patterns, you read some books and stuff, and you go like, oh, this is awesome, you can solve this in this way, it just looks beautiful and stuff.
You want to apply everything to
and
everything.
you start applying every pattern to every problem that you get, and once you go even further and when you mature enough, you get to the point, where you figure out that you are actually a craftsman. You have your toolbox and you cannot solve each and every problem with the single tool that you have. You sometimes have to take a tool or a pattern or whatever and just modify it a little bit in order to solve the concrete requirements. So, but yeah, I agree about that. You cannot be just senior in all the things. You can, master a couple of tools or a couple of frameworks, and then you can call yourself a senior. But regarding becoming the great developer, why should we even want to become great? Why do we even optimize any kind of a process in the real life? Well, we want to optimize. We want to get far greater return in comparison of what we invest in that, right? So we want our return of investment to get maximized. And if we want to optimize ourselves and our skills, we have to work on extending our knowledge, both theoretical and empirical, and we also need to enhance our relationship with people around us, because without the proper attitude, you can be a great developer, you can be a master of your area, but if you cannot cooperate with other people, you're just like a single core CPU on a motherboard, that can only go so far. After that, you need some kind of parallelism of cooperation with other people like you, to achieve even more. So.
We will come to that. We're just continuing with that topic. So I mentioned how mentor is important when you start your first job. And Sandra, this is a question for you. We all know how much soft skills are important. How much is important to have somebody in a team, to have a great team, actually, to have people who motivate you, and also, but in another way, you need to motivate somebody else. So how we actually how to build a senior, and how to be somebody who is not starting a first job. So now you have a lot of experience. So probably you mentored many different developers. So how to teach those things? So soft skills are not easy to learn. Of course, it's easier to learn some language, but how to build a senior if you start working with junior, let's say.
Yeah, this is not an easy question. Like we, as a company, we decided to have an apprenticeship program, which means that we get apprentices to work with us for a period of time. The way that we've done it, we have what we call core skills. Of course, that the core skills will vary from company to company. We are a consultancy company. So, which means that our core skills are divided in technical skills and soft skills. And each apprentice, when they join us, like for example, my current apprentice has like more than 10 years of industry experience, but he's still an apprentice from our standards. So in the core skills, we don't only teach, well, in fact, like it's not the mentor's responsibility to teach, it's the apprentice's responsibility to learn. Right, so that's very different. It's not like a professor at school, so the apprentice needs to push the mentor. So we try to teach both technical and soft skills. Technical skills are very easy. Test-driven development is easy to teach, and design is easy to teach. Soft skills is extremely hard, mainly for a consultancy company. So the only way to acquire them is that if you are working on projects under more experienced people. And experience, and I think that like the definition of senior as well is like you go beyond writing code. I think that a senior developer is more than a coder. He is a person that is able to provide solutions, able to provide value to clients, right? So I think that, so our apprentices, normally they go to projects and they work underneath people that are working with clients, and we try to bring all our apprentices to our meetings as well to see how we negotiate, how we discuss business requirements, how we split our projects, how we do everything. So I think that for a company that wants to build seniors, as the question is about, like there's a lot of investment that the company needs to make, but not only the company, it needs to be a mutual investment.
Exactly.
The person applying to work for that company, they need to invest as well. They need to say, okay, I have 15 years of industry experience, but I'm still an apprentice. It needs to be both ways. And that's what the vast majority of our apprentices, we don't get people just fresh from university, we take people with some years of experience, but they themselves have inside themselves, say like, you know what, there's a lot of things that I want to learn, and maybe I will find people that can teach me. So first of all, you need to be humble and understand that you don't know all. So
yes, I believe that motivation is very important factor in that sense, and I believe that everybody is motivated by some other things. I'm personally motivated when I see that I'm not good at something, so I want to learn more. But somebody also wants to be motivated by, in a way that you will say, you're great, and then he will grow. So I believe that senior, if you agree, senior must find that measure and that balance, and to adapt it to every individual specifically. So he cannot apply the same idea on every developer.
yeah, just to give you an example, like in our company, we hired a few new people recently, and we want to expand on the mobile side. And some of our apprentices have some years of industry experience building mobile applications. I personally don't have much. So one of the tasks that I asked our apprentices is to come up with an internal training courses to teach me and all our senior craftsmen, which means that in that subject, we are their apprentices. And this is a culture that every single one of us should have. Understand that we may know certain things well, but we don't know anything about other things. And if you are humble enough to understand that and be in an environment where it's okay for you to expose your own ignorance, the chance for you to grow is massive because you can always be in a safe place where say like, I don't know much about it, so please can you teach me that? And that's what we try to do in our company.
I hear very often that together with that with the seniority, I hear a lot of seniors, and I heard a lot of seniors saying that I go home at 5 o'clock, so 5 or 1 I'm not in the office. We call those developers 5 o'clock developers when we make jokes. But do you think, Nenad, that those kind of developers can be real craftsmen? And can be great developers, can be great senior, let's say senior developers if we are talking about seniorities. So what do you think?
I have a mixed feeling about that. On one hand, I'm valuing private life and you need to go home, really rest, spend time with your family, enjoy board game or TV show. But on the other, you need to have passion and to have eagerness to grow, and in order to do that and push really boundaries, you need to go home and finish a course on Coursera, read a book or whatever. So I think you need to find your balance. I think there are certain periods in life where you need to step up your game because you need to finish certain tasks which you said you need to finish. But then there are periods of time where you need to have a healthy rest and really go home. In my opinion, if you don't fit your task in 8 hours, then you are not doing what you promised you will do, and then you need to go home and really grow. If somebody else is overselling your services and you cannot make it, then it's a whole bigger problem, and I am completely against that because then you're doing your job as best as you can, but it's a matter of company culture. I worked at places where number of hours spent in office is valued much, and I'm completely against that. I think it's a wrong thing to do, and I think you need to be manager enough to know your skills and to be able to commit and do everything in your working hours. So to answer your question, I think it's going back and forth, but it's doable. After a certain period of time, you can fit everything in working hours and have a healthy life at home and enjoy with your family after 5.
Yes, but after 5, you're all today with us, and this is all knowledge sharing, and we like these kind of events. And the good thing about Novi Sad is that we have more and more meetups, and we have more and more different kind of presentations. Even today, we didn't make something like this before. Geekston was also founded last year, so we had a conference. So basically, we are doing a lot of. We are giving back to the community a lot, and we are sharing knowledge all the time. So, Philip, how you think, how important is for you this whole knowledge sharing, and what does it mean to you?
If I may first expand on the previous question, or rather
answer.
Yeah,
of course.
I love to work with people who will once every 6 to 12 months send me an email at 1 a.m. and telling me I solved it. We were bugged with this, and I stayed up late, and I solved it. Not more than once in 6 months, because that, as it was previously mentioned, that is a problem. But I want those people on my team, I want those people in my company, I want those people in engineering community who are passionate about their work and who, when they try to do something, they focus on it every once in a while, and they do not let it go until they solve it. Now, that kind of connects to the next question, which is knowledge sharing. Knowledge sharing is really important because I believe that every single one of us has that as responsibility. If you read a book and learned something, someone took their time to write a book. Someone took their time to design a Coursera course, or to give you to give a talk or something like that. So what gives you the right to not share your knowledge, to not share something that you have learned? And furthermore, we all want to work with best people possible. That's why knowledge sharing is important. That's why topics like equality in tech is important, because we all want to work with best people possible, and the only way to do that is to throw our nets wide and share everything we know. And who knows, someone might come up with better solution. We might be doing everything wrong for all we know.
Exactly.
And,
Yeah. How you will know that you're doing something good? It's
Exactly.
not only if you read the book, so it's not always like that. Mladen, what do you think about this?
Yeah, I just wanted to add that thing that Philip just mentioned. I agree about sharing knowledge as a way of helping people around you and actually making the community of people around you more skilled, which will eventually even help you to solve problems, because you will end up in a team of those same people. But furthermore, I think many people are just overlooking one important thing. When you decide to create a knowledge sharing session, it's not just about other people gaining some added value out of your sharing. It's also you who are gaining value, because you're actually exposing some ideas that you are exposing to criticism and feedback from the audience itself. So eventually you also get some kind of a feedback that will help you understand and see the same problem from another point of view. Mm-hmm. And that also makes your knowledge about that area more complete, and you make yourself more complete as an engineer in that area. So I think knowledge sharing sessions are good for those two reasons. One is to help people around you, and the other, even more important, is to help yourself understand problems better.
Yes, great. That is why I believe the communication is very important. I sometimes I see that people inside the same company, inside the same team, don't communicate, and not talking about the sharing knowledge outside the company. Yes, thank you. I would also like to use this opportunity to invite you all to give a presentations, to sign for a meetup. There is plenty of meetups now, and we have a once per month Geekston meetup as well. So there are also some other meetups in Novi Sad. So please just share your knowledge, because definitely you know something that we don't know, but maybe you're not aware of that. My next question, we are always talking about craftsmen. What is craft? What is it? What does it mean? And I was looking at on Hack Summit this year. Uncle Bob had a presentation. Actually, this was a more chat with Ed Roman, and Ed Roman asked him, "What is the craftsman? What does it mean to be a craftsman?" And I would like to read it just before I ask another question. So he said, in simple words, what it means to be a craftsman is that after you finish your working day, you must be proud of what you achieved that day. It is another word for professionalism, the other word for ethical responsibility, the way of saying there are certain things that I will not do, the certain lines I will not cross, the certain standards that I will uphold, and within those bounds I will do the best that I can. Software developers very often feel like they are not allowed to do the good job, that they are pressured to meet deadlines and schedules at the expense of professionalism. This is the main rules of craftsman movement, that you are never put in a position that you must deliver at the expense of your professionalism and ethics. This was great. This was not something like that you just read in a book, but I like to repeat his words. In Serbia, there are many companies that are doing outsourcing. So basically, you provide a service to your customer. And probably you know how you deal with the customers in that situation. So we hear all the time customer is always right. Of course, we are now in much better position to say no to the customers and to explain them why something is not good, and they are now listening more and more to us, and they have more confidence. But how to stay a craftsman when when you're providing a service? So how to find that balance? You already know what I'm talking about. So basically, you cannot always give your best, and you cannot always be proud of your code. You already partly answered that question, but I just want to hear more about this specific topic.
So
It's easy when you have your product. It's easy to move the deadline. It's easy to to add more quality to your code, to do more testing and things like that. But how to deal with in these kind of
so
situations?
there are different things here. So it's like you cannot be or not be who you are, right? So you are always who you are. If you are a craftsman, you're a craftsman. You cannot just say like I'm not a craftsman. What you can say is like in certain situations I may not use certain practices. Right? So you cannot just say, I'm a craftsman in this situation, I'm not a craftsman. Because then you have a different problem. You have a psychological problem, like, who am I, right? So, but I think that there are things that we need to talk, there are different things here. So, one thing is being pragmatic. So, things are on fire, right? There is a massive fuck up in production, and we need to fix that. And well, there's nothing to like. We need to fix it. Period. That there's no other way. Another thing is you should keep putting more wood into the fire. So, for example, you are working with a client that the relationship is in a certain way where you always have problems in production. So then you coping with that, or you putting more wood into the fire. That's not a great idea. So I think that one thing is like, let's solve our immediate problems, and that's being pragmatic. Even if I need to throw away some of the practice that I believe, let's solve the existing problem. But once this existing problem is solved, if I have the existing problem over and over and over and over again, that's stupidity, right? So that's the point where you need to say no. So that's what I'm saying. Sometimes we really screw up. Right, so I'm saying, like, we think that it's gonna work, and it doesn't. And then I need to own to myself. It's like, okay, like I said that we should do this way. We did this way. It didn't work. I will work as many hours as I need to fix that because it was my call. But I would not let a client force me to work over hours for an extended period of time. If the client doesn't respect, that's when you say no. That's where so I think that there is a lot of pragmatism in it. So solve your existing problem, but don't make your existing problem a continuous problem over time. That's just stupid. So then you need to say no. You need to say, look, Mr. Client, can you see the problem? So how can we work together so we don't even need to, so the problem doesn't even exist? So it's not about like, we had a case in London recently where one of the clients came to us and said, oh, we need to do these and these code reviews and stuff and blah, blah. So basically there is an external team that is doing something, and they wanted us to do some code review as a quality gate. And then we said, like, we can do the quality gate, but that is working on the effect and not in the cause. So I can do the quality review, or the code review right now, so to guarantee that the code goes to production with a reasonable quality. But I don't want to do the code review tomorrow and the day after. So how can we work together so we never need to do a code review and the problem goes away? And that's what I'm trying to do, to say. So solve your problems, but don't keep putting wood on the fire so you have this problem for a long period of time. So those are the differences. Be pragmatic, but you also need to say no and make the problem go away.
Yes. I wanted to hear that it's okay to put something aside for now. So that was my expectation from your answer. Nenad, I also heard from you when we spoke about this, that you actually had a much more good experience and clients that can understand. So I would like to hear your answer.
Yeah, we had we had extensive discussion about that yesterday. Basically, I had the fortune that client I worked for shared the craftsmanship manifesto with us, and we spent one whole retrospective talking about it. And I want to reflect on two things from that manifesto that really stayed. Clients don't need service; they need equal partner to solve problems. And the other thing is that you don't want to be reactive. You want to constantly add value to their business. So basically, with those two things, I think you can solve this problem and really stay craftsman in service-based. When you are providing service, you need to build integrity. So when you don't know your client, you need to win small battles, prove that you know what you're talking about, challenge their decisions. Try challenging. I think each client will like it because they need equal partner in their business. They don't need some hands which will code their code. So integrity is really important, and I think one more thing is really important, and that's transparency. You need to tell your clients that something will hurt. You need to provide options. Do this way. We are in MVP phase, so it's okay to do that this way. But in a long run, if you want to be scalable, if you want to meet all your non-functional requirements, do it this way. But you decide. And when you say it like that, you are professional and you did your job. You left the decision to client, but you did your job, and everybody knows your opinion. And I think that's solution to the problem, to speak about options out loud.
Great. Very often we hear that development is compared with a surgery, and I found one text from actually related to the clean code from Uncle Bob as well. So where the situation was that patient came to the doctor and he told him like my arm hurts, and doctor said what would you like me to do about it? Make my arm stop hurting. Doctor said, do you want me to cut it off? And patient said, no, I just want to stop hurting. And the doctor said, I could cut all the nerves to your arm. Then it will stop it. And patient said, isn't there something less drastic you can do? And doctor said, oops, sorry, time for break. And this is one situation. Another situation was that patient came and he said like, I want to cut my arm off. And doctor said, why do you want? What's wrong with your arm? He said like, it hurts. I'm tired of it. Like, can you just cut it off? And doctor said, come on, let me see your arm. Looks like you got some sprain or perhaps some fracture, and maybe we can do some X-rays. And no, patient said, no, just cut it off. And doctor said, like, I do not cut healthy arms. It would actually, basically, patient said, like, I'm paying for that. That is something that we hear very often. And doctor said, like, no, sir, I don't. Cutting off your arm would violate my oath. So we always try to find a way to say no. So Mladen, maybe a question for you. So how to say no?
Well, I think you just explained it perfectly. I mean, you need to be pragmatic from one point of view, and from another point of view, you really need to think like an expert. Whenever you have any kind of a doubt how you should behave toward your client, maybe it's the best thing to think of the same example that you gave, like when you would go to the doctor, what would you expect the doctor to tell you? If you would expect the doctor to tell you, I can do this or that, I don't know, what do you think I could do? Could you maybe even pay me a visit to a conference or something, I mean, it doesn't make sense. You go to the doctor to solve the problem, You have a problem, and you need a problem solver. You don't need a lot of options. You need a problem solved. And you trust the doctor with his expertise, He went to some schools, he got some education, something. He guarantees with that diploma or something that he is an expert in his field of business. So you trust that expertise. And I think it's the same way with us, But we, in the outsourcing, mainly here in Serbia, we are mostly employed in the outsourcing types of businesses. And most of the times people are, I don't know, out of fear or the lack of confidence or something. They are actually more easy to go with the you're right, I'll do it like that, I'll just cut your arm off, you'll be satisfied customer, I'll be happy employer.
You're
and,
paying for that.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't agree with that. I really think, you need to act like an expert. If you don't know what does it mean to act like an expert, just imagine the vice versa situation, when you go to the expert, what do you expect? I think it's the best possible way to deal with those cases.
Yes, that's somebody has something to add? Maybe. Okay, next question. Philip, the next question is for you. So we all learning every day some either new technologies. We improve our skills. So how you actually see your weaknesses? So how you actually see that you are maybe not good enough on some field? So how you admit to yourself, and how you try to improve that. So what is actually what you consider as your biggest weakness, if you have it? Of course, you probably have it as everybody. But how you go with the solving that and improving that?
So yeah, continuous learning is very important for anyone. The moment you feel like you shouldn't learn anymore, you might as well retire, because you're going to get worse and worse in your day job until you do. Currently, my attention span is non-existent. And what's really worked well for me is Pomodoro technique, which is do one thing for a specified period of time. Mm-hmm. And kind of on a larger picture, the first step is identifying the problem, seeing that you're not achieving your maximum output and figuring out why is that. Once you're past that phase, you first need to admit to yourself, and once you're past that, you probably have a lot of coworkers who struggled with the same thing. The more senior people, we talked about that moments ago, who went through that earlier. There are really good books on how you can solve certain things, and ultimately it's up to you, whatever works for you. If for me it works to have Legos on my desk and to say this is my email budget, dev budget, tops budget, whatever, and to just move them from one pile to the other. If it works for me, who's to say that it's wrong?
Yes. Sandro has defined the sheet code. And this is code that somebody else has written. But do you think that the developers as well are people that hardly admit to themselves that they're not good enough in some field?
There is definitely an element of that. We are creative people, and it's good for us to say that we suck, right? So, but I believe that this also comes with maturity. There is I don't know if you know about the Dreyfus model of skill acquisition. It's a pyramid. So if you are a novice, a novice in a junior, you think that you know all. And while a senior knows how much he doesn't know or she doesn't know, and then so normally seniors have the whole imposter syndrome, right? So I don't know enough. So I think that as you mature, you will learn that you don't know everything, and then you are okay with it, because you don't need to prove anything to anyone. So I'm totally fine to come to these guys and say, you know what, I know nothing about this thing. Could you help me with that? So I don't know. I don't know if that's answer your question.
I have another question for two of you guys. So imagine the situation that you're a developer. You go on site to the clients, and client, everything is stopped. The whole lines are stopped. Everything is stopped. Client is losing millions of dollars per day, and you need to solve it. So at the same time, everybody see you as a lifesaver, and at the same time they see you as somebody who screwed up all the things. So how developers should behave in that situation? when project is in fire, let's say?
Yeah, I think that I mentioned that before, like in one of the questions. First thing is like solve the problem, stop the problem, right? So don't go like when everything is on fire. Oh, because my TDD, because Uncle Bob said that. That doesn't work, right? So fix the problem. But once the problem is fixed, allowing the client or the team to work in the same way where you have the same problem over and over again, that's just stupid. So first fix the problem, but then like right after, once the problem is solved, say, okay, let's stop working the way we are working, and let's try to come up with a better way of working so we don't have this problem ever again. So that's how I feel. That's how the behavior should be. Fix the problem, then make sure that the problem never happens again.
So yeah, I'd like to start with show of hands. Raise your hand if you have ever caused an outage. It doesn't have to be user visible, but it has to be at least your yearly salary. Okay, and for the folks who haven't raised their hand, don't worry, it's coming. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. You have to go through that, it will happen, and it's okay. That's what we do. As it was covered before, when that happens, first of all, stop the bleeding, contain the outage. Do not let it spread, because it freaking spreads like a wildfire. The second thing to do is assess the damage, see what has happened, and figure out why it was happened. Then come up with, as Sandra said, before you move forward, come up with set of tests. What could prevent that from happening in the first place? Maybe we're missing a unit test. Maybe we're missing an integration test. Maybe we need better monitoring. Maybe we need more network. And then negotiate with your management or your clients, because then they will understand if that moment immediately following them losing a large sum of money for pennies of procedures having beforehand. And once you're done with that, you can safely roll forward. But yeah, it's going to happen, and it's fine, especially if you work in ops. That happens. That's not a big deal.
Yeah.
That's what you are paid for, actually.
Exactly.
Nana, do you want to add something here?
Yeah, basically two things. Embrace the failure and learn from mistakes. I had a really good experience writing tests for each bug we found. And it really works magic. First write the test to figure out the bug, then fix it and never see it again. So.
Yeah, great. We are talking about experience. Mladen, you have 10 plus years of experience. So now what? So what motivates you? What leads you further? Where you find your passion? So is it something that that is going up and up, or that is changing from time to time? So,
to be honest, before you mentioned it was 10 and a plus, I wasn't even aware of it. But thinking about it, for me, it doesn't matter if you have a 10 plus, 20 plus, or whatever years of experience behind you. What matters to me is, for myself, as I really want to consider myself as a problem solver, I always like new challenges. I always like solving some kind of new problems, new areas of problems. Because I once figured out that if you really conceptually understand the solution to any problem, you can easily apply the solution to another areas by analogy itself. So it doesn't really matter how many years of experience behind myself I have. I'll continue improving myself, and there is really good reason for that. World around us is constantly improving, and if you don't improve yourself, you will not only stay at the position where you are. For example, imagine the boat on the river, and you want to go upstream, you want to advance in your life, and all of a sudden you stop pedaling. You won't stay at the same position. The river will drag you back downstream. So you need at least to pedal just a little bit just to stay at that position where you are at the moment. And not to mention the amount of pedaling you need to apply to move forward. Yeah. So it doesn't matter really how many years of experience are behind. What really I am interested in is to see what's in front of me. So what challenges are there, because I really love my job. I really love programming, problem solving, stuff related to that. So for myself speaking, I'll constantly be trying to improve myself even more and more, just if for nothing else, at least to stay in shape for the years to come.
Yeah, great. Sandro, question for you. If you go back in time, what would you change?
Very difficult question. Like I don't have a lot of regrets from where I came from, in the middle of nowhere in Brazil, and where I am today. I don't have a lot of regrets. But like one of the regrets I have is that like if I had to go back in time, I would start sharing what I know earlier. I think that I spent too much time afraid that what I know is not good enough. So, for example, think about today, right? So there are some speakers here that came, like including myself, that gave a talk, and you are in the audience. What is the difference between me and you? The only difference is that I decided to come on stage. That's the only difference. I bet that every single one of you knows something that I don't know, and if you were on stage, I would be learning from you. So I took too long to realize that because I was afraid to show. I was always thinking that I didn't know enough. I was always thinking that I was not good enough. And I was always like looking at big names in our industry and saying, oh, if I ever go on stage, if I ever share what I know, these big names will look at it and think that I'm shit. Well, guess what? Like, they don't even care. Right? So that's the same as us. Like, for example, imagine like all of you have problems, and then when you have a problem, what we do, we Google it, right? So that's a natural thing. We Google it. And when we find a solution to our problem that we already know, we just go to the next link. And that's exactly how it works. So one thing is for me to come up with a talk that will please the biggest names in our industry. If I think about that, I will be frustrated and I will never do it. Another thing is to say, well, maybe there is some new people that are joining our industry that may benefit from the work that I've done, but the people that are more experienced than me, that they may just ignore it. And I think that I took too long to understand that I should be sharing my knowledge with people that know less than I do, but not like trying to impress the people that know more than I do. So this is something that I would change. I would start sharing my knowledge way earlier. I think that's probably what I do.
Yes,
and I would have moved to London earlier.
Okay, great. Usually we also, on the big conferences, on some public talks, or some chats with some big names, we often hear a question like, if you need to recommend one book, what would it be? Nenad, I will not ask you about one book, but can you recommend some great books, great tips, great maybe people to follow on Twitter and
Yeah,
to the audience?
I think I always start with the 4 same books. Let's say I really like and I recommend to everyone Clean Code and Clean Coder as a first step, then Pragmatic Programmer. And then if you like really Java, effective Java is something that you don't want to miss. I really tried in 2 companies to organize book reading club. I think it's not enough just to read a book. I think it's great to read chapter by chapter and really talk about it. We had a huge success in previous company where we read a chapter, then reflected what we do and what we don't do and what doesn't make sense. And then we embrace the things from clean code, which we want to do and want to add to our equation. So I think that's important to discuss. I think the really good discussions can come out of the books.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, with this question, we would finish this first part of the discussion. So you're all invited to ask a question. So we will now see the questions and we will try to answer some of them. Okay, so question with the most likes. We all learn on our mistakes. What was the biggest mistake you made in your career, and what did you learn from it? So, whoever wants to answer is welcome, of course.
I can try. I think that is related to what I was saying before.
Now we see who is senior.
I think that I thought that I was shit for too long. and I thought that I had nothing to share for too long. And that's what I was trying to say in my previous answer. I think that each one of you in the audience, you are absolutely no different from us here. You have a lot to share, but I was always scared to share what I know because I always thought that I was not good enough. And there's always someone that can learn from us. Maybe it's not Uncle Bob, maybe it's not someone else that is already established in the industry, but every single year there are thousands of people joining our industry that can learn from our own experience. And I think that this is for me the biggest thing. We should all be sharing and never be worried that there is people better than us. Don't look at people that are better than you when you want to share things. So you need to think that you are good enough and you have enough to contribute to people that there's a lot of people out there that can learn a lot from you. And it took me too long to understand that. So.
And sorry, I just want to continue on that. I will be real quick. I think it goes to the relation with clients. I think you shouldn't. I waited too long to really bring my ideas to clients, and they want problem solvers. They don't want people who will code for them and do their decision. They want really to speak about solutions to problems and challenges. So I think I waited too long for that. It goes to that direction as well.
For me, it was more of a career choice. While back, there was a startup I was interested in, and I won't name it. It was great technology, and there was something odd with the people there, and I saw that when I was interviewing. But I thought, how bad can it really be? I mean, technology is great, and it's really challenging, and so on. And I couldn't identify myself. Like, in 5 years, if I'm one of these people, no, I don't want to be that person. And when I started there, we touched on seniority. Senior is, your senior is who are you asking for guidance. I didn't feel safe asking anyone for guidance. That company had really toxic culture. But I somehow thought that I myself am going to change it. So I spent much more time that was necessary there, and even after I realized it, you kind of defer to just doing more of the same. You do not realize that saying with your current job is actually a choice. If, monkey sat in front of your computer, wrote down a resignation letter and sent it out to your boss, would you say, hey, sorry, my monkey wrote this, or wouldn't you? That's a funny exercise. So that eliminates your kind of currency bias. And I, to this day, regret that I stayed with that company more than it was required. So the moment you spot toxic environment, just quit. Quit as soon as you can. Don't worry about burning bridges. If anyone worth your attention is still in that company, they'll know why you quit. That's it for me.
Great.
Can I add something?
Yeah,
briefly?
of course.
I don't want to be rude or anything. Just please stay with me on this. Every time when somebody asks, what would you change in your life? I think it's kind of a, I don't want to insult anybody, but I don't think the question has any kind of a point, not to insult again anybody.
No.
But why do I think like that? You made decisions back then with the knowledge you had back then. So all your decisions were perfectly made sense back then. If you knew stuff that you know now, of course, you would do it differently. But what would it mean? You would make a decision, that you don't really understand at that point. So what's my point with all this? If you made a mistake, or if you had a successful story or something, you gained an experience with that. If you didn't make such a mistakes, you wouldn't have the experience you have today. So all the mistakes that you made, together with all the success stories that you made, are making yourself
What
developer
are you now?
you are today. So what I would advise to all of you really is just go and make mistakes. Make stuff, do everything you think you can do, just gain some experience with that. And it's not that difficult, just like Sandro said, it's not a very big difference between you and us. It's just about, starting crossing lines, getting out of comfort zone, and trying to do stuff that you think you are incompetent for, but you really are not. You should follow the advice. You
Yes.
should try things and
It's
see how
it's
it
very
works.
it's very hard sometimes to change the mindset that fail is good, and that fail is something that will bring you up and up in some of the next situations.
But
To add more on that subject, if you can be right 51% of the case, you're in the wrong business. Go to stock market and make some real money. Most of the time you're going to be wrong, and that's fine. Just better to embrace it.
And I wanted to say that not everyone is working in a companies that embrace failures. I think I agree with Mladen that you need to make mistakes in order to learn. But if you see that in your environment you don't have a chance to make mistakes, I would agree with. I would agree that you need to switch company.
Exactly.
Basically, you switch company
I
and
agree.
be in an environment that embrace failure.
I agree.
Just one thing, like when you opened, like before you were giving your speech, before introducing us, you mentioned something about feeling ignorant a few times with your mentor. I think that you only feel ignorant when you learn something. So actually feeling ignorant is a great feeling. You just need to go over it, to get over it, like, oh, I feel ignorant, I'm not so smart. No. When you feel ignorant is actually when you actually learn something. If you never feel ignorant in your life, means that you are not learning much. So being in a place where it's okay to feel ignorant and show to other people that you can expose your ignorance is a great thing. So I think that like what the thing you had with your mentor and I had with my mentor, it's a blessing, really, right? So I mean, like feeling ignorant is a thing that we should praise. Every time they feel ignorant, we should be happy about it because you only feel ignorant when you are learning something that you don't know. So
Thank you very much. Okay, one more question, and we are finishing with the discussion. How to behave in the situation where mistake is not your own? Should we explain to the client that it's not our mistake and our job to fix it? I will again ask for a volunteer.
Well, it depends on the kind of a mistake, but if the mistake is yours, again, remember the expert scenario where you go to the doctor. Would you prefer if the doctor really told you the truth, or you would prefer, him lying to you and, making up excuses and stuff? So just try to act like an expert. If it doesn't feel right what you are doing, it most definitely is not right.
I believe the problem here with the question, and I understand it from my also personal experience, is that it's not always understandable that we are the same team. And if I'm responsible for one component and this is not something that you're working on, and that I see that your part is not working, and I go to the client and I see that your part is not working, I will just blame you or wash my hands from that. So we all know that it's not a good behavior, of course, but how to deal with that? So
My question is, are you adding value to the client if you are playing blame game?
no.
Basically, I think you need either to lower your, I don't know, ignorance, change attitude and fix the problem, add a value to the client, talk to the other party or whatever, and then afterwards learn from a mistake and do something about it that this doesn't repeat.
Yes, I agree.
yeah, I think that if you need to resort to blame someone for something or even blaming yourself, you have far bigger problems, right? So ideally, like if there is a problem, it's a team problem. So okay, we've done something and then there's a problem. How can we work together to solve the problem? But if you need to pinpoint or finger point someone or even yourself, you have a far bigger problem. And then you need to consider if you are in a very healthy environment, if you should even remain there. Right?
Yes. I promised one more short question to Philip. You're the youngest one here. So I would like to hear your tips to young developers, to students who are just trying to find the first job or who are just trying to maybe even change the company. So what are your tips?
First of all, stay out of the companies with toxic culture. You might not see that interviewing. You'll see that in the first week or first month of your job, and leave them far behind as early as you can. There are a lot of red flags. If everyone is staying up 12, 15 hours every day, that's clearly a red flag. If you do not feel comfortable asking for guidance, if you do not feel comfortable experimenting, making mistakes, that's not somewhere where you want to be. Look for a company where you can learn something, especially early on in your career. You'll get right when you learn something, then you get to apply it for the rest of your career. So learning something early on is much more valuable than learning the same thing later in your career. So just go with that, learn a lot, think big, and never work in a company with toxic environment.
That's great. Okay, I will close this discussion. Thank you all again. Thank you all the panelists. Thank you all the audience for being here with us today, for asking questions. Feel free to join us after the discussion to meet our panelists in person. So grab a drink and come to meet them. Of course, feel free to visit Geekston website to follow the next events, to be informed about the next events. And again, I will ask you, please apply to be a presenter on the next meetups and to share your knowledge, to share your expertise, and we are all eager to learn more, and definitely we need all of you. So that is how we will build our community. That is how we will improve the quality of the software that comes from Serbia, and definitely that is how we will improve each of us individually. So thank you all again. Thank you all to the sponsors. Thank you to the organizers. And cheers.